Ask a mechanic what car they'd buy for their own father, and you'll get a very different answer than what you'd hear from a salesman. That's because mechanics see the aftermath, the vehicles that come back every few months with another problem, and the ones that just keep going. When it's their own dad behind the wheel, maybe 75 years old, driving to doctor's appointments or visiting grandkids 3 states away, they're not thinking about horsepower or touchscreens. They're thinking about whether that car will start in a Minnesota winter, whether dad can actually see over the hood, and whether it'll strand him on I-80 somewhere between Des Moines and Omaha. By the end of this, you'll see the one vehicle that comes up more than any other when mechanics are spending their own money. But first, we need to understand why their thinking is so different from everyone else's. Here's what most people don't realize about how mechanics shop for vehicles, especially for someone in their 70s or 80s. They're not looking at 0 to 60 times, they're asking what actually fails. What leaves people stranded? What requires a specialist versus any corner garage? They've watched trends for decades. The transmissions that grenade at 90,000 miles, the electrical systems that fritz out after warranty, the supposedly advanced features that confuse a guy who just wants to turn on the heat. When you work in a shop, you see the truth. The flashy stuff breaks, the boring stuff lasts. Toyota Camry. Start with the most common scenario. Your dad's getting to the point where he shouldn't be dealing with car problems. Maybe he's 72, still sharp, still independent, but you worry. The last thing you want is him calling from a rest stop in Ohio because the car won't start. That's where the Camry shows up. Now, mechanics will tell you straight, the Camry isn't exciting. It won't make anyone's pulse race. But here's what happens in a shop. Camrys roll in for oil changes, tire rotations, brake pads. That's it. You don't see them on a flatbed. You don't see panicked elderly owners stranded because some sensor failed and the car won't go into gear. The engine runs for 200,000 miles without drama. The transmission shifts smoothly year after year. Even the electrical system, which is where modern cars usually show their age, just works. And here's the part most people overlook. Parts availability. Your dad's not living next to a dealership. He's in a smaller town, maybe rural, where the closest Toyota dealer is 40 minutes away. But it doesn't matter because any shop can work on a Camry. Parts are on shelves everywhere. If something does break and eventually things wear out, it's affordable to fix, and any mechanic can do it. No specialty tools, no coding required, no 3-week wait for a part shipped from Germany. The newer Camrys come standard with features that matter for older drivers. Automatic emergency braking, lane departure warning, adaptive cruise control. These aren't gimmicks. These keep people safe. One mechanic bought his father a 2020 Camry after the old Buick started acting up. His dad needed simple and reliable. 3 years later, the only money spent has been oil and filters. No surprises, no stress, just transportation that works. Which brings us to the next question. What if dad needs something higher off the ground? Honda CR-V. Here's a problem nobody talks about until it affects them. Getting in and out of a sedan becomes genuinely difficult as you age. Knees stiffen, hips hurt, balance isn't perfect. Suddenly dropping down into a Camry and then pulling yourself back out feels like an ordeal. That's when the CR-V makes sense. In the shop, CR-Vs have the same reputation as Camrys. They just don't break. The engine is Honda's naturally aspirated 4-cylinder, which is about as reliable as an engine gets. No turbochargers to fail, no complex variable timing issues, just a straightforward motor that runs. The transmission is a CVT, and yes, Honda's CVTs have had problems in the past, but the current generation in the CR-V has been solid. Mechanics see them roll past 150,000 miles without transmission trouble. The ride height is perfect for someone who's not as mobile as they used to be. It's not so high that you're climbing up like a truck, but it's high enough that you're sitting naturally, not folding yourself down into a low seat. Getting in and out becomes simple again. Slide in, slide out, no gymnastics required. Visibility is the other huge factor. As you age, blind spots become more dangerous. Checking over your shoulder gets harder. The CR-V has large windows and good sightlines. You can actually see what's around you, which reduces stress and increases safety. And for fathers in snow states, Michigan, Wisconsin, upstate New York, the all-wheel drive CR-V handles winter without drama. It's not a Jeep, but for getting around town in January, it's more than capable. One shop owner told me about his 74-year-old father who lives outside Grand Rapids. After years of sedans, he needed something easier to manage. The 2019 CR-V with AWD solved it. Reliable in snow, easy to get into, simple to operate. 4 winters later, 0 issues. But what if your father wants something a little nicer? Something that feels more like a reward after years of basic cars? Lexus ES. This is where the conversation shifts slightly. Some guys spent 40 years working hard, maybe running a small business or teaching or doing honest labor, and now they're retired. They've earned something comfortable. But here's the problem. Luxury cars terrify mechanics when they're buying for family because luxury usually means expensive, complicated repairs. The Lexus ES is the exception. The secret is simple. It's a Toyota Camry underneath. Same platform, same engine options, same basic DNA, but Lexus adds sound insulation, softer suspension tuning, better materials, and a dramatically quieter cabin. You get luxury car comfort without the nightmare of European car repair bills. Because when that Lexus needs service, it's Toyota parts, Toyota reliability, Toyota repair costs. In the shop, ES sedans are almost boring. They come in for scheduled maintenance, and that's about it. The V6 engine runs forever. The transmission is smooth and durable. The electrical system doesn't throw random faults like a German car. And this matters specifically for older drivers because dealership service is actually pleasant. Lexus treats customers well, provides loaners without hassle, doesn't nickel and dime you. When your father takes his car in for service, he's not getting the runaround. The comfort matters more than people realize. As you age, long drives become tiring. Road noise, vibration, uncomfortable seats, it all adds up. The ES is exceptionally quiet and smooth, which reduces fatigue. If dad's making a 6-hour drive to visit family, he arrives less worn out. Here's the real-world case. A mechanic in Florida bought his retired father a 2018 ES 350. His dad had driven Fords his whole life, nothing fancy, but wanted something nice for retirement. The ES gave him that without the anxiety of big repair bills. 2 years in, just oil changes. That's it. And that peace of mind, knowing your father isn't going to get stranded or bankrupted by a repair, that's worth a lot. Now, not every father wants a traditional sedan. Some still want that crossover feel, but with better driving dynamics. Mazda CX-5. Here's something interesting that's happened over the last few years. Mechanics who used to be skeptical of Mazda have changed their tune. Why? Because what they're seeing in shops has shifted. Modern Mazdas, especially the CX-5, are holding up. And for fathers who are still active, still enjoy driving, this matters. The CX-5 isn't trying to be the biggest or the most practical. It's trying to feel good to drive. The steering has actual weight and feedback. The handling is composed. For a guy who's 68 and still likes taking the back roads, still appreciates when a car responds properly, the CX-5 delivers that without sacrificing reliability. Inside, the materials and build quality punch above the price. It feels more expensive than it is. Solid switchgear, good upholstery, clean design. And here's what older drivers appreciate. The technology isn't overwhelming. Some modern cars have interfaces that require a college degree to navigate. The CX-5's controls are logical. The infotainment system is straightforward. You're not spending 20 minutes trying to figure out how to adjust the temperature. Under the hood, it's Mazda's naturally aspirated 4-cylinder or an available Turbo 4. Both have proven reliable. Mechanics see these engines accumulate miles without major issues. The transmission is a conventional automatic, no CVT, which some buyers specifically prefer for durability and feel. One mechanic mentioned his father, who's a retired engineer, still sharp at 70, still drives spiritedly. He wanted something reliable but not appliance-like. The 2021 CX-5 split that difference perfectly, reliable enough to trust, engaging enough to enjoy. That's a combination that's hard to find, but for some situations, fuel economy becomes the priority. Toyota RAV4 Hybrid. Let's talk about money for a second, because this matters to retirees. Fixed income means every expense gets scrutinized. And if your father drives a lot, maybe he's visiting grandkids in another state, or he's helping at church, or he's just someone who likes getting out, fuel costs add up fast. The RAV4 Hybrid addresses this without introducing risk. The key is that Toyota's hybrid system is proven. Mechanics were skeptical of hybrids 15 years ago, but the Prius changed that. The system works, it lasts, and it's been refined over millions of miles. The RAV4 Hybrid uses the same fundamental technology. In shops, these vehicles rack up miles without the hybrid battery failing or the system causing problems. It just delivers better fuel economy, usually high 30s to low 40s mpg, without requiring any special behavior from the driver. No plugging in, no range anxiety, no learning curve. It drives like a normal RAV4, just with better mileage. And it comes standard with all-wheel drive, which matters in weather. For someone in Colorado or New England who needs winter capability but also wants to save money at the pump, This combination is rare. The practicality matches the regular RAV4. Same cargo space, same easy-to-use layout. You're not sacrificing anything except trips to the gas station. One mechanic bought his father a 2020 RAV4 hybrid because dad drives cross-state frequently to help with grandchildren. The fuel savings are real, hundreds of dollars a year, and reliability has been flawless. But some fathers want more traditional sedan dynamics with that Honda reliability. Honda Accord. The Accord is the alternative to the Camry, and it comes down to subtle differences in character. Both are exceptionally reliable. Both will run for 200,000 miles with basic maintenance. The Accord just drives a little differently. Slightly sharper steering, slightly firmer suspension, a bit more feedback. For fathers who still care about how a car feels, this matters. In the shop, Accords show the same durability as Camrys. The engine, whether it's the 1.5 turbo or the 2.0 turbo, has been reliable despite being turbocharged, which is impressive. Honda figured out how to make boosted engines last. The transmission is smooth and durable. Even the electronics hold up well, which hasn't always been Honda's strength. Inside, the Accord feels grown up. It's not trying to be sporty or youthful. The materials are quality, the seats are comfortable for long drives, the controls make sense. And like the Camry, it comes with Honda sensing, automatic emergency braking, adaptive cruise, lane keeping, as standard equipment. These systems work well and genuinely improve safety for older drivers. One mechanic bought his 73-year-old father a 2019 Accord after the old car finally gave up at 230,000 miles. His dad wanted something comfortable but not boring. The Accord delivered, comfortable for daily use, enjoyable on longer drives, completely reliable over 3 years of ownership. But for some situations, weather capability becomes non-negotiable. Subaru Outback. If your father lives anywhere with serious winter weather, Vermont, Montana, Michigan's Upper Peninsula, rural Colorado, the conversation changes. It's not just about reliability anymore, it's about whether he can get to the grocery store in January, whether he can visit family during the holidays, whether he'll get stuck trying to leave his driveway. That's where the Outback makes sense. Subaru's all-wheel drive system is different from most. It's not part-time or reactive. It's always working, always splitting power between front and rear. In snow and ice, this provides confidence that a front-wheel drive sedan simply can't match. And for an older driver who might not have perfect reflexes anymore, that extra stability and traction matters. Now, mechanics used to avoid Subarus because of head gasket problems. That reputation was earned. But the current generation with the 2.5-liter engine has been much better. These newer Outbacks are holding up well without the chronic issues that plagued older models. You still need to maintain them properly. Oil changes matter, but the catastrophic failures have largely been resolved. The Outback sits at the perfect height for older drivers, higher than a sedan for easier entry, but not so high that you're climbing. The ground clearance handles rutted roads and deep snow. The cargo area is massive for someone who's still active, still doing projects, still loading up for trips. And the visibility is excellent. Large windows, thin pillars, which reduces stress when driving. One mechanic's father lives in rural Vermont, where winter isn't a suggestion. The 2021 Outback handles it without drama. He's in his mid-70s, still independent, still capable, and the Outback gives him the confidence to get around all year without worry. But when you're really looking for the complete package, there's one vehicle that comes up more than any other. Toyota Avalon. Here's what happens when you ask experienced mechanics what they'd buy for their own fathers. The Avalon gets mentioned again and again. There's a reason for that. The Avalon is Toyota's full-size sedan, and everything about it is designed for exactly this buyer. Someone older, someone who values comfort and reliability over image. It's not marketed to young people. It's trying to be the perfect car for someone in their 70s or 80s. Start with reliability. Mechanics see Avalons run for 300,000 miles. The V6 engine is legendary for durability. The transmission is smooth and lasts. The electrical system is straightforward. No weird gremlins, no random failures. These cars just work, year after year. But the Avalon isn't just reliable, it's comfortable in ways that matter specifically to older drivers. The ride is soft and smooth, soaking up bad pavement. The seats are supportive, especially for people with back problems. The cabin is exceptionally quiet, which reduces fatigue on longer drives. The size matters too. This is a big sedan, easy to see, substantial presence, excellent crash protection. For older drivers who might be more vulnerable in an accident, That mass provides real safety. And getting in and out is easier than most sedans. Large door openings, good seat height, plenty of room to maneuver. Technology is where the Avalon really shows its strength. Yes, it has all the safety systems, but the controls aren't buried in touchscreen menus. The climate control has actual knobs. The radio has real buttons. An older driver can figure everything out in one afternoon. Service is straightforward because it's a Toyota. Dealers are everywhere. Parts are available. Any competent mechanic can work on it. Here's the story that sums it up. A veteran mechanic who's been turning wrenches for 40 years bought his 75-year-old father a 2019 Avalon. His dad has back problems, needs something comfortable. He's independent, still driving to appointments. The Avalon solved everything. 3 years later, it's been perfect. Oil changes and one set of tires. That's why the Avalon tops the list. When mechanics are buying for their own fathers, people they care about, they choose the Avalon because it's the complete package. What these vehicles have in common isn't complicated. They're reliable in the way that actually matters. Doesn't leave you stranded, doesn't bankrupt you with repairs, runs for years without drama. They're simple to operate, they're comfortable for people whose bodies aren't as forgiving. And they're safe. Mechanics think about this differently because they've seen the patterns, they know which brands last. And when it's their own father's safety on the line, all the marketing disappears. So there you have it. The vehicles that mechanics are actually buying for their own fathers. From the reliable Camry to the Avalon, these aren't the flashiest options. They're the vehicles that people who fix cars trust enough to put their own family in. If this helped you think differently about what matters, hit that like button. And if your mechanic has recommended one of these, drop a comment below. Real stories matter more than marketing. Subscribe for advice from people who actually work on cars, and hit the bell, because the next video covers the vehicles mechanics see-break constantly and would never recommend. Thanks for watching. When it's someone you care about behind the wheel, boring becomes beautiful. Reliability beats features. Peace of mind is worth more than any spec sheet advantage.